Hey there, Mama. You're listening to the Lift the Shame podcast. I'm your host, Crystal, mama of 5 and your family's intuitive eating dietitian, here to help you cut through the diet culture clutter so you can enjoy freedom with food as a family. I'm on a mission to help you end the generational legacy of diet culture in your home so you can experience motherhood free from food guilt and body shame. Listen in weekly for guidance on how you can ditch diet culture, heal your relationship with food and your body, and confidently raise intuitive eaters. Let's dive in and lift the shame together. Welcome back to the show, Mama. We are just a few days away from Halloween, and if your kids are anything like mine, they cannot wait for those bags full of candy and all the holiday festivities. And I know for a lot of parents that these candy-centered holidays can bring up a lot of angst and worry and concerns. And we've spent this month doing a little mini series on kids and sweets, and I hope that's been helpful for you. Today, I want to just walk through some strategies that might be helpful for you as you are trying to figure out, okay, how do I help my child navigate this influx, this high volume of sweets and candy in a way that helps honor their intuitive eating abilities and also just gives them an opportunity to learn through these different experiences how to self-regulate when there's times of a higher volume of sweets. These are great opportunities, and really it's an amazing time to support your child in really flexing and growing their intuitive eating abilities. So I want to just help you by giving you a little breakdown, a little bit of a game plan to support you as you're going into this holiday so that you can actually enjoy it and not feel bogged down by food rules or overwhelm. And it is overwhelming to some degree, right? There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of lead up that goes into these holidays. And, there's a lot of pressure on parents too, to make the holidays something that our kids cherish and enjoy, and creating family traditions and all that involves. And really, when you have the mental space to focus on enjoying those moments that matter most to you and not get sucked into the power struggles that can happen around food and sweets, then they are more enjoyable. And I'd love to just give you some strategies that can help support you with that. So I'm going to break this down in terms of the day of, the day after, and then the days following. I almost said Thanksgiving, but whoa, almost got ahead of myself. We're talking about Halloween here. So if this is a holiday that you're celebrating with your kids and your kids are going to have a higher volume of sweets, whether it's a bag full of candy from trick-or-treating, or maybe you do a trunk or treat, or maybe your child's just getting a bunch of candy from parties or at school festivities, whatever it is, if you're going to have a higher influx of candy in your home around this holiday, then I'd love to share just some tips to help support you through this. So let's start with the day of Halloween. Halloween falls on a Monday this year, which to all of our teachers out there, oh man, we're thinking of you as you're getting the kiddos the day after. But the day of Halloween, I really do encourage parents to try to go about your normal, as much as normal is, right? Your normal eating routine for your kids during the day. So sticking to regular meals and snacks, with the understanding that your kids may not be as into eating as they might normally be. And that's really common. When kids are amped and excited and know something fun is happening, sometimes that can be a distraction, and that can distract them from their regular hunger and fullness cues. So it's not abnormal. And the best thing you can do is just stick to regular eating times as best as you can, and really try to minimize distractions during eating time to support your kids in helping them get what they need to eat. And again, trusting them through this process. Their eating may seem a little off, and that's okay, nothing to worry about. We don't want to pressure them to eat. And I think sometimes that's a common pitfall that we fall into. It's like, okay, I know all that candy is coming later today, so I need to get my kids to eat a certain amount of protein or vegetables or anything like that. And we really want to try to stay away from food rules or any kind of pressure to eat, because that typically backfires. So just offering the food, offering a variety of different foods, and want to make sure that we're trying to stick to a normal schedule with eating. Sometimes as adults, this tends to happen from old food behaviors, old customs growing up, but I know it's common for a lot of adults to have this mindset of, oh, I'm going to be having a special dessert, or we're going out to eat tonight, so I'm not going to eat as much today during the day, right? It's kind of like saving up, quote, calories or room for the foods that you want to indulge in later. And when you have that mindset, or that's a mindset that you've internalized, that can be something that we project on our kids, even unknowingly. So sometimes it's easy to have the same type of mindset for our kids, like, oh, well, they're going to be getting a ton of sweets and things tonight, so maybe we'll go light throughout the day or whatever. It's just easy to sometimes engage in those behaviors, those old thought patterns. And so I just want to encourage you to try to feed your child as normally as possible. And again, refraining from trying to pressure them to eat a certain amount or certain foods. So the night of Halloween, you're going out with your kids, you're coming back, they're super amped and excited about their bucket or their pillowcase full of candy. And this is a great opportunity to really give our kids access to a higher quantity. And we really want to give them full permission to eat and explore the quantity that feels best in their bodies. And if you didn't get to hear the episode last week, make sure you go back and listen to the importance of this strategy of not just allowing them to see sweets frequently, but also to have strategic opportunities where they get to eat a higher quantity of sweets than they may normally get. And Halloween is the perfect opportunity to incorporate this strategy, especially right after whatever event you've had where they're getting their big bag of candy or whatever it is. So whether you went to a festival or your child has been trick-or-treating, we want to then give them full access and permission to that candy when you get home. And of course, you want to take necessary precautions to check candy, for safety. And if you have younger kids, you do want to be careful for anything that could potentially be a choking hazard. So definitely be sure to do that. And then you want to just move forward with giving your child permission to eat what they want from their individual candy stash. Typically, what we do in our home, we let all the kids mule over their candy stash, look over it, explore it, eat what they want, try what they want. And we have them do that at the kitchen table. And really just want to make it relaxed, make it fun, make it something that really gives them full permission. It's really important to be aware of any type of signals or any mannerisms that would potentially be communicating your discomfort to your child. So remember that they are picking up on our mannerisms, whether it's things that we're saying verbally to them or things that we're saying through our nonverbal mannerisms, like that infamous side eye look, right? If you're giving them a look of disgust or horror or contempt, whatever it is, like just be aware of your own mannerisms and your language as your child is going through their candy stash. As much as possible, I really want to encourage you to just maintain a sense of neutrality and do what you need to do to help manage your discomfort and anything that's coming up for you. And again, if you've had a tumultuous relationship with food, if you're still navigating sweets for yourself and what that looks like for yourself, it's not uncommon to feel uncomfortable as you watch your child going through their bag of candy, eating a higher quantity. It might bring up some stuff for you. So knowing that ahead of time might be able to help you navigate this situation. Sometimes it can be helpful to delegate this task to another family member or your partner if your partner is in a better place with food and not going to have the same triggers and discomfort come up for them. It's okay to ask for help and to recognize where your limits are and understand your own capacity in order to help support yourself and take care of yourself, and also to help support your children through this too. Because again, like, even if you're not saying anything verbally, if you are manifesting your own discomfort through nonverbal expressions or through your body language, your kids may pick up on that. And they can potentially internalize certain messages based on your own energy that they're feeling around them. So again, just some things to watch out for and be mindful of as you're going through this experience with your children. But ultimately, you want to give them permission and say, okay, kids, like, here's your candy. Mom and dad have checked it. It's good to go. You're free to explore it. And ultimately, what I do, I set up my kids at the kitchen table. I let them kind of dump out their candy, and we basically just put a trash can out. And I just ask my kids, like, hey, look, whatever you eat, please throw your trash away. And whatever you eat and decide you don't like, you can spit it out in the trash can. Just giving them that permission can really help them learn how to explore it and have permission to explore it too. That's the key here. We want them to feel like they have permission. There's no guilt, there's no shame associated for being excited about having this higher volume of candy and sweets available. And again, I want to circle back to this point in terms of allowing your child full permission to eat the quantity that they want from their candy stash in that particular evening. This is really hard. And I will say that your kids might overshoot it. And especially younger ones who are doing this for the first time are more likely to overshoot it. And just as an example of what might come up, and I'm not saying this will necessarily happen for you or your kids, but this happened for me and one of my daughters a few years ago, because she was 3 at the time and now she's 8. And this was really, I remember, like, 3 is around the time where they're more aware and interested and excited about Halloween and all that involves. And she was super amped about her candy, like, thought it was the bee's knees, so excited, and was following big sisters and going through her candy bag. And I just remember looking over at her, and she was like just full on unwrapping things and putting them in her mouth quicker than she could even like chew and swallow. And I saw her holding a lot of candy in her mouth. You know, I could kind of see it like in her cheeks. And part of me was like, whoa, are you even breathing over there? She was like inhaling her candy. And as uncomfortable as it made me, and it did make me feel uncomfortable, I also knew that if I were to step in and intervene, I might prevent her from learning a crucial lesson about what feels good in her body and what doesn't. And so I just tried to maintain as much as possible a supportive and neutral stance. Didn't say anything, but believe me, there was a lot of things that came to mind, and I really had to hold back. Part of me wanted to say, you know what, honey, you need to slow down, or you're eating too fast, or you're eating too many. Or, you know, it's easy to make like passive aggressive comments sometimes too, like, oh, are you sure you can fit something else in there? But I was like, I can't do it, can't say anything, just need to let her figure it out. And sure enough, she ate to a point where she did actually get sick. And next thing I know, she's in the bathroom. I heard her throwing up. And of course, like, part of me like felt that mom guilt. Like, how could I let my daughter eat to this point of getting sick and eating candy to a point of actually throwing up? I just had to tell myself, like, over and over again that she is capable of learning. And this is part of the self-regulation process. And I'm not saying that kids need to eat to a point of getting sick to learn. However, kids do need opportunities to gather data, to gather information about what feels good in their body and what doesn't. And if we're always stepping in and preventing them from learning and from gathering that information, then it's really hard for them to develop their intuitive eating abilities. Some of you might think, well, don't our kids have those innate intuitive eating abilities? Like, aren't those already there to help guide them? And yes, they are there. And they also take some learning and developing to hone in on those skills. It's like any skill that you learn and develop. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes experience. And over time, when you've had those experiences, those skills get sharper. And the same is true with our children's innate hunger and fullness skills, and especially in circumstances that are out of the norm, like Halloween. And so my daughter did get sick, going back to my story, and she did throw up. And part of me wanted to say, it did come to mind, like, oh, you should just tell her, like, well, if you didn't eat so much candy, then you wouldn't have got sick, or that wouldn't have happened. And I just knew I couldn't say anything. I just had to maintain a neutral stance. I was there. I comforted her. I said, honey, I'm so sorry that happened. I'm so sorry that you got sick. What would help you feel better? Do you want to come sit on the couch? Do you want to snuggle? Here's some water. Would this be helpful? And we just kind of sat on the couch together. And I was just comforting her and really like holding back my own inner monologue. And sure enough, she said on her own, no prompting, didn't say anything, didn't ask her anything. And she just said, you know what, Mommy, I don't think my tummy liked eating that much candy. And it was just so reassuring and interesting for me to hear her say that and to hear her come to that conclusion on her own, which is what I want to encourage you with. It's so easy for us to just step into this role and want to be the gatekeeper and want to be the food police. And sometimes we just word vomit things that are in our mind, or we recycle things that we heard said to us as kids, right? And we want to remember, like, you can trust your child as the expert of their own body. And of course, you can give them guardrails. Like, we give them opportunities. We give them certain times and designations. Like, okay, we're going to have your candy bag here at the kitchen table. We're giving them guardrails, but we're also letting them flex and develop those intuitive eating muscles within the guardrails that we're providing them. And when we can do that, we're creating a safe experience for them to learn how to eat. This is so crucial. And so many of us grew up without these safe experiences or these safe spaces held for our appetites and our preferences. And part of helping your children learn how to navigate that is by holding a safe space for them and honoring where they're at and their preferences and their curiosity and their wanting to explore the different tastes and flavors and textures that are available to them. So part of this work, or a large part of this work, is really holding that ground for yourself and learning to manage your discomfort and being aware of the things that are coming up for you and the thoughts and the questions, and managing your discomfort in order to hold space for where your child's at, whatever that experience may look like. So ultimately, the night of Halloween, after you've had your experience and your time together, you want to give them full permission to eat what they need and to eat the quantity they need without any judgment or shame served on the side of that. Okay. So that's the night of. And of course, you want to offer up that candy eating experience in whatever way feels good for you. Typically, I'll pour out some water or milk for my kids to have with their candy. And after doing this for a few years, overall, we've gotten into a pretty good groove with it, and would, want to encourage you to make it whatever it needs to be for you. Some families, heard families do different things, putting on music, making it fun. You want to make it more of a relaxed mood for your children as they're exploring their candy stash. So once the candy stash has been explored, you want to put your child's candy away in a mutual agreed upon location. So the tendency is to hide it or put it out of reach or put it somewhere where your kids might not be able to access it. But especially if you have a child that's highly interested in sweets, and kids are going to be more interested, obviously, about their candy after Halloween, you want to make it accessible. Again, it feels counterintuitive, but when kids don't know where their candy bag is going, or if they feel like it's inaccessible or they can't see it, that just creates more preoccupation with it. There is a lot of different thoughts out there and schools of thought. There's a lot of ideas about how to get rid of kids' candy stashes so they don't even have it available in the house. But the thing is, when your child has already seen it and knows it's there and knows they have a huge bag full of it, for it to be gone suddenly can be very distressing for kids and create more preoccupation around it. I don't know if you've ever heard Jimmy Kimmel's I Ate All My Kids' Halloween Candy series that he does. Basically, you could probably search it on YouTube and you'll find clips about it. But basically, he asks parents to tell their kids the day after Halloween, when their kids are looking for their candy stash, that they ate all their kids' Halloween candy, and basically record their reactions. And some of those reactions, and it's meant to be funny. I get it. It's totally meant to be a joke. At the same time, though, it really helps you understand how intense this can be for kids and how distressing it can be for kids when we see like how angry they get or how distressed, or some kids, will start breaking down and crying, like visibly distraught over this idea that their candy bag got demolished overnight. It's hard. Like when kids see visibly what was theirs, and to know that it's not there any longer can be very distressing. Other ideas that have been promoted are about the switch witch, which is this idea that if you leave your bag of Halloween candy out, then the switch witch will come at night and basically swap out your candy bag for a toy or some kind of non-edible item. And, I don't want to throw shade at families who have done this, or, again, you have to do what works best for you. I just want to propose this idea and this alternative perspective that maybe in doing that can create more turmoil around sweets between parents and kids, and ultimately can create more preoccupation around sweets for kids. And so if you're interested in learning, again, an alternative point of view, definitely check out this article that I've written about the switch witch. I'll include it in the show notes for you. But the idea is you want to make it accessible. You want to find a spot in your pantry or on your kitchen counter and just come to some terms of agreement, okay? Where you can tell your kids basically, all right, honey, we're going to put your bag right here. Or where's a good spot that we should put your candy bag? All right, let's put it right here. And here's what we're going to do. When it's time to eat, we're going to come out and let you pick out some pieces of candy that you can have. And I want you to come and ask mommy, or I want to make sure that, you just want to make sure that there's some agreed upon, not rules, but just understanding about how we're going to be accessing the candy bag. And it's not to be restrictive. It's just to create, some basic understanding to help your child understand how things are going to proceed, right? Because if kids don't have an understanding about where's my candy bag going to be? When do I get to eat it? When do I get to have more? That uncertainty just creates more anxiety around it. So as much as possible, if you can create your own agreed upon understanding with your child about their candy bag, it's going to make things go over a lot smoother. And ideally, you just want to continually reassure them that more will be available and they will be able to access their candy bag multiple times in the coming days. So that is the day of. The day following Halloween, my encouragement is to make it accessible multiple times with various meals and snacks during the day. So again, if you didn't hear last week's episode, be sure to check it out when I talk about 3 common reasons why kids tend to be obsessive about sweets. One of those keys is frequency. If we don't make it available frequently enough for them, they can become obsessive about it. So because it's a higher exposure time of candy, we want to offer a higher frequency at which they get to have access to that candy. So you want to kind of bump it up more than your usual. So if you commonly do sweets a couple times a day, you want to think about doing it multiple times a day. So maybe you're doing it breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or every time you eat, whatever that needs to look like for your family, you want to make it more accessible. I also recommend the day after Halloween that you strategically plug in at least one time, preferably at a snack time, where your child again gets another opportunity to have a higher quantity of that candy stash. So similarly to what you do on Halloween night, you want to do the same thing where you say, okay, it's snack time. Today for snack, we're going to have our candy and some milk. And you can go get your candy bag out of the pantry and you can pick out what you'd like to eat from your candy bag. And this is really interesting to watch for me personally with my kids, because sometimes it's kind of a hit or miss. Like sometimes they're super about it and they're really amped and they want to eat multiple pieces. Or, I always have the kid that like wants to eat all of the same kind of candy. So we'll like dig out all the Starburst or the Skittles from their bag. So it's really kind of fun to watch like what your kid will do. And again, just to hold that safe space for them to explore it and eat it in a manner that feels good for them. But again, you want to strategically plug in that higher quantity piece where essentially you're allowing them to have their candy stash bag or whatever it is. You're giving it back to them. You're letting them pull it out from the pantry and allowing them to eat the quantity that they want. Whereas at other times during the day, let's say at dinner or at lunch, you might designate a certain number of pieces that they can have with that particular meal. So the goal is that you want to ebb and flow between both strategies. You want to offer times where they do get higher quantities and also offer times where you're saying, all right, you can pick out a couple pieces. We're going to have more again tomorrow. So always reassuring them that more will be available. It's going to be a lot harder for your child to be reassured that they get to have more if you're not ebbing and flowing between both strategies. So again, you really want to incorporate the quantity piece and also the frequency where you're letting them see and have candy more frequently with meals and snacks throughout the day, as well as a specific time where they get to have more. Now, in the days after that, so you've done Halloween, you've done the day after. In the days after that, you want to kind of maintain the same type of strategies where you're making their candy bags accessible. You're allowing them to have it frequently with various eating times throughout the day. And then periodically you incorporate a time where they get to have a higher quantity. That doesn't necessarily need to be every day. And again, it's important to read your child to determine what might work best for them. But if you notice that they're really preoccupied with it and constantly asking for it, that might be an indicator that they do need to see it more frequently and or have more opportunities where they get those higher quantity times. So again, there's no specific game plan in that your child may have unique needs that you might have to adjust these strategies for. And that's the goal. And knowing that ultimately as a parent, you know your child best. And this is a great opportunity to practice being flexible and responsive to what your child is needing. Because a child that's showing a higher interest in that Halloween candy is going to need to see it more frequently and in different ways than a child who maybe is not as interested in it. You might have some kids that are like over it by the first day. They're like, I'm done with this, and they're ready to move on to other things. Whereas another child may not have that same attitude and may need to see it more frequently. So you can do what you need. You can take these strategies and adjust them as needed for your individual child. I hope this helps give you a little bit of a game plan and just some reassurance as you're heading into Halloween. I will share some blogs and articles that talk through these strategies more in today's show notes in case you need a more in-depth reading and understanding of your own plan as you think about going into the holiday with your children. But I'm just wishing you and your family a wonderful Halloween season. It really can be a fun holiday, especially when you're not dealing with the power struggles around the candy or just the anxiety that can come up with this candy-centered holiday. But I'm wishing you and your family so much fun. Stay safe. And of course, always would love to hear your questions and your feedback on today's episode. So feel free to come and leave me a comment on today's show notes page or connect with me on Instagram. Hope you have a great Halloween, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Lift the Shame podcast. For more tips and guidance on your motherhood journey, come connect with me on Instagram at Crystal Cargis. Until next week, Mama, I'll be cheering you on. Bye for now.